Welcome to The Price of Business. I am your host, Kevin Price, talking to you about you and your business. I'm glad to be with you here on today's program. We got a lot to talk about. Okay, but really, one of my favorite people in local politics is in my studio here today, and that is Charles Bacarisse, and he is with Houston Baptist University now, Vice President for Advancement, but many true rank-and-file conservatives, whom I consider myself among that number, are familiar with your efforts to help make this city and continue to make this city the greatest city in the country, and this county, noted as it has been and continues to be. I thank you for your service to our city.
You bet, Kevin. Thanks for having me on. It was a pleasure serving in county government for 13 years, and prior to that, I served in the White House staffs of President Bush 41 and Ronald Reagan as well. So I've had a great run in public service, and about a year ago, I lost my election for county judge in the primary to Judge Emmett, and thankfully had the opportunity to come over to Houston Baptist University as Vice President of Advancement, work with our president, Dr. Robert Sloan, and help build a great university here in Houston, Texas. I'm really excited to be part of that effort.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm sure they are excited to have you as well, and we're delighted to have you here to talk a little bit about it. Houston Baptist University, I'm not that familiar yet with Dr. Sloan. Maybe sometime we can work at having you and Dr. Sloan here in our studios. I was pretty good friends with Dr. Hodo, and I did a lot of events with Houston Baptist University. You had at one point a very active Students in Free Enterprise group.
We did.
I don't know if it's still there, but
they are. They're still strong.
Well, I need to get in touch with those folks.
Absolutely.
I had fun working with them, and they just had a change of who was doing it, and things happen. But I love doing things with that university, and it's a school that, with its theological backbone and where we are geographically, has enormous potential of being a phenomenal agent of change in the way we need change. I'm not talking about what we're seeing in our headlines today. The only change I've seen since November is in my pocket. Well, I won't go there. I know you got a different role now.
I do. Listen, it is a challenging time, but this is all the more important to make sure that our universities are areas where young people can come and get a strong education in the classics, and that's what HBU is offering. We are reforming our core curriculum to offer a real focus on the classics, the great books. We've always been a good university, but Dr. Sloan came here 3 years ago after serving 10 years as president of Baylor University. He came to HBU and quickly worked with the faculty and staff and the community to develop the 10 Pillars vision for HBU. And you can go to our website, www.hbu.edu, and look at our vision statement. It's called the 10 Pillars. It's right there on the homepage. And you'll see what captured me. Frankly, I read that and I thought, this is a way that I can make a strategic difference in my community, is coming over to HBU and working to achieve that mission. So I came a year ago, and thankfully, before I got there, Dr. Sloan and the team that he's brought in place, as well as the outstanding faculty that has always been there, and they continue, they have seen a real turnaround. They've had 10% growth each year over the first 2 years of Dr. Sloan's being president in freshman enrollment. Now this year, our third year, even with the economic situation as it is, we still expect to have probably a 5 to 6% enrollment growth. So the university is growing. That's one of our goals, obviously. We want to, right now we have an undergrad presence of about 2,500 with about 500 in graduate programs. We aspire to be a university of about 7,000 undergrads in size and about 1,500 in graduate programs. So in 10 years, 12 years from now. And thankfully, we've got the land to do it on our location there, Fondren and 59. We've got 120 acres there, and we're ready to grow, and we are growing. So students are voting with their feet. They're looking for a quality, rigorous academic experience with a distinctly Christian base that is very focused on the central tenet of the fact that Jesus Christ is Lord, and that's what we say.
Tell us a little bit about the 10 pillars. What are some of the elements of that, and particularly that were so attractive to you?
We, as I looked at the vision statement, it made the point that you made in the opening that American higher education has deteriorated very clearly and cleanly over the last century plus. Many of the great institutions of our founding, if you think of Harvard and Princeton and so many of these Ivy League schools, they were founded as seminaries. But sooner or later, they walked away from that spiritual connection, that spiritual root, if you will, and they became secularized. And then from that point, they actually became hostile to many of the important tenets of our founding as a country. Mm-hmm. So HBU wants to be distinctly focused on our roots, but also strive for great academic rigor. And you and I were talking before the show, there are great institutions around the country that are doing just the same thing we are. Institutions like Grove City, Wheaton, you mentioned some others, and they're great schools. We aspire to be one of those universities. The interesting thing, too, is Houston, as a metro area, is fairly under-universitied, if you will, when you compare us to Boston or New York or Los Angeles or Chicago. There are many times more four-year institutions of higher learning in those cities than what we see here in Houston. There's only 5 of us here in Houston. We have a very robust community college system. But when you think about four-year higher ed institutions, you've got TSU and U of H, then you've got Rice and HBU and St. Thomas, and that's it. Yeah. So there's plenty of market share, and we're going to capture it.
Yeah, even though I guess Sam Houston by some is considered a commuter school of Houston, but still Sam Houston State up in Huntsville. Yeah, it's right. Kind of a commuter school, easy for me to say. So you shouldn't be that hard, but how many syllables is in commuter? Anyway.
Listen, it's sometimes a challenge. I understand.
It's Monday.
Absolutely. You're doing well.
Hey, thank you. So
the other point, too, to what you were asking about our 10 pillars is we want to be a living, learning campus community, which means that we want to really focus on developing an on-campus experience for our students. We want residential life. Right now, about 35% of our students live on campus, but we hope in 10 years to have that number up close to 60%. Because again, it builds a certain community when you can live and learn on campus together.
Right.
And so we're focused on that. We don't want to be a commuter school. We want to intentionally grow into an on-campus undergraduate experience.
What percentage of your students are from the greater Houston area?
Right now, about 95%.
Really?
Yeah, they come from the 5-county region, and we're trying to change that mix as well. One of our other pillars is to recruit for national influence. So we are going to be much more intentional in reaching out to young people all over the country. They want a distinctly Christian education, but academically rigorous. Those are the 2 key components. Our admissions folks, James Steen, has been there. He came from Baylor with Dr. Sloan, and he has really captured the essence of how young people communicate today. We have an online application. It's free. There's no charge to apply to HBU, and he's able to get email addresses and text numbers and communicate with kids that way. About 80 to 90% of our applications today come in electronically. Gone are the days when you mail off the big, thick packet to the house and get the kid to write the essay and mail it back in. We do so much of it now electronically.
Yeah. Well, what's interesting about that is, the theory has been, well, we want to charge them something in order to prove that they are really serious about it. And, I don't know anyone who's more cognizant of their opportunity costs, not necessarily in a good way, but it's like, oh, I got to do that? Right. I got to spend, an hour doing this or an hour. If they're going to spend an hour doing it, they're serious, in my opinion. Right. There's a certain level of seriousness. Are they going to choose your school? You're hoping they're shopping around. You're hoping they're looking at a few different schools and not just, going to take the first one that accepts them. I always thought that it was in the school's best interest to find students who are spending a lot of time marketing themselves to a lot of different schools. And so why the charge? I never understood that whole thing.
No, I agree. I think that the competition out there in higher education is very stiff and very tight. So we need to do things that we can do to make it as easy as possible to apply, and then we will work with the student as they go through the process And, of course, they're looking at other institutions. And we're offering scholarships. We're offering other sorts of financial aid based on their academic achievements and accomplishments. So there's a lot of options for students out there today, and we recognize we need to compete in that marketplace as well. So that's part of my job also as Vice President of Advancement. I'm out there trying to raise money for the university to put into our scholarship funds and to build great academic programs that our faculty can then take advantage of. So it's a great challenge, but I've really enjoyed my first year.
Very, very good, and I think you're doing a great job. I'm hearing a lot of buzz that I had not heard for the university, frankly, ever. I'm sure some of that's Dr. Sloan, and I'm sure some of that is, and Dr. Hodo, who's a phenomenal individual, great guy, and someone I really enjoyed. He had been president for a very, very long time, the longest-serving president. In fact, did he serve? When did he start?
Oh, at least 15 to 20 years, close to it. He very effectively shepherded and stewarded the university through some amazing times in its history. He was only the second president of the university, and he did a fantastic job so that Dr. Sloan, coming in and following him, could then build on the firm foundation that Dr. Hodo and his leadership had caused to keep there. So we really owe him. We stand on his shoulders. We stand on the shoulders of Dr. Hodo and his leadership, and then now we're moving forward and stretching upward. We've had a great opportunity to engage the community more effectively. We had a very strong event with the Houston Symphony back in the spring. They came on campus and did a 2-day event with us. We really enjoyed having them there. We also had former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright speak back in January. We had 3 nationally known syndicated talk show hosts of the conservative bent come on as part of a national town hall tour they were doing on the first 100 days of the Obama administration. We want to be a place, right?
Who was that? Who was that?
Well, we had Michael Medved.
Dennis Prager was in that?
Prager was not at ours. We had Medved, Hugh Hewitt, and Mike Gallagher.
Oh, that's a good group. Yeah, I'm friends with Mike. That's good stuff.
Dr. Chris Hammonds, our poli-sci professor, was the one who moderated that event. We want to be the place in Houston where great debate takes place. We want to be open and honest, and we believe that the conservative ideas ultimately will probably win the day, but we need to make sure that they're fairly debated. Mm-hmm. And there are not many places in America today in higher education where conservative ideas can be fairly heard. Mm-hmm. And we think that we're going to be one of those places.
That's great.
We aspire to that.
That's great. I mean, and this is the whole deal. Conservatives, in particular, public intellectuals in the conservative movement, yes, there are some, in spite of what the media might tell you, they're not interested in dominating the intellectual thought, per se. No. They're looking to contribute to it. Frankly, I think you could have some institutions like Hillsdale College, which has universal credibility in spite of our mainstream media. Grove City College, you can go right down the line. I think you could have some institutions with that strong conservative bent leaning towards that. When you consider for every one of them, there's thousands,
right,
not hundreds, thousands who have a predominantly liberal worldview.
We're vastly outnumbered, but if you can teach a young person the ideals of Adam Smith and John Locke and the economic principles of free markets and capitalism, that's what made this country great. That's what we were founded upon economically. And then at the same time, you're also teaching them the Constitution of the United States. Dr. Hammonds and his class.
We're going to have to get you on again because my producer says you and I are going to be having a private conversation in about a minute because because we got to pay those bills. We're going to get you back on again. Charles Bacarisse, he is with Houston Baptist University. You can tell he held office. He likes a microphone. Great job. We're going to get you back again. HBU.edu. Learn more about the great changes going on there. I'm Kevin Price. We got more for you right after this on The Price of Business on CNN 650.